Welcome back to talking about the Bhagavad Gita. And as my teacher Sharonji would often remark, when we're talking about something, it can be very, very useful, beneficial to jump over the miscommunication that can occur when we use the same words, but they mean different things to us. And for the most part, I think talking about something is pretty clear. And you got a sense of how Joshua and I are going to be talking about the Bhagavad Gita as this course unfolds. But what is the Bhagavad Gita? What is this thing we're talking about when we are just having these discussions? So that's my first question to you, Mr. Greene. What is this thing? What is this thing? If I say, oh, yesterday I was talking about the Bhagavad Gita with a friend of mine, and they say, oh, yeah, what's that? What's the Bhagavad Gita? For our intents and purposes,
Sure.
how would you reply to that question?
Right. Well, it's the right starting point. Let's start with the words themselves. There are two Sanskrit words here, Bhagavad and Gita. We'll start with the second word. The word Gita is often translated as song, the song of Bhagavan, the Supreme Being. Gita can also be translated as a call, a calling out. So what we have is the Supreme Being in the form of Krishna, the speaker of the Gita, calling out to souls to reunite with him in love and devotion. The the word Bhagavan refers to the repository of Bhaga. Bhaga means opulences or desirable things, wealth, fame, intelligence, beauty, renunciation. Those lovely characteristics repose in their entirety in the Supreme Being. Everything flows from him. So he is Bhagavan. Van is like a forest or retreat or the abode of. So you have the Van of Bhaga, where all those qualities reside. So the call of Bhagavan or Sri Krishna is a dialogue that took place on a battlefield, according to which historian you prefer, somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 years ago. You can visit it today. Kurukshetra is an actual physical pilgrimage site. I think it's about 4 hours from Delhi by train. And you can see the place where Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his warrior disciple and friend Arjuna. There's a reconstruction of their chariot there and the two personages having this conversation. So it's a conversation that took place on the verge of battle, just on the verge of this massive war between two fratricidal armies. You have the good guys, if you will, Arjuna and his four brothers, known collectively as the Pandava princes. On the other side, you have relatives, cousins of the Pandavas, known as the Kauravas. There were 100 of these Kaurava bad guys, if you will. The Kauravas had usurped the throne illegally from the righteous Pandavas, and the war to regain that throne is about to begin. On some other occasion, we can talk about how is it that a text that exalts ahimsa or nonviolence as the ultimate of human virtues ends in war. We'll deal with that. But right now we're talking about what is the Bhagavad Gita itself. So you can describe the Bhagavad Gita in 5 words. You can say the primeval bhakti yoga text, because what Krishna tells Arjuna is perform bhakti yoga and learn how to step up to the plate. You'll regain your sense of self, you'll regain your confidence, you'll regain your sense of worthiness, and you'll be able to do even a difficult dharma. It's a short explanation for the Gita. You can do a longer explanation. You can say it is a battlefield dialogue between the Supreme Being in the form of Sri Krishna, his warrior disciple Arjuna, where Arjuna is in darkness, and Krishna, through his teachings, brings him to the light. He brings Arjuna from not knowing to knowing. from terror and self-doubt to a position of self-confidence and action. So you can give a longer definition. Basic explanation of Bhagavad Gita. It is Krishna calling out through his teachings to Arjuna to all souls to regain their confidence in themselves as eternal beings and to get out there and fight the fight.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you. I was counting when you said it's 5 words. I had my hand underneath the camera, making sure it was.
Was it 5?
Yeah, it was 5. Yeah. No, that's wonderful. And so there is this. I guess I have a little bit of a follow-up question, because we're talking about. You gave us some of what happens before the Gita, and then you gave us kind of where the Gita is aiming towards. But if you and I want to talk about consciousness, I want to talk about bhakti. Sometimes when we try to define something, all of these other words pop up that need further definition, right? Like, so who is Krishna? What is bhakti? All of these, you so nicely gave the word for word, or even some of the roots for Bhagavad and Gita. But how is it that this is a song, I guess, is one question. Like, so why is it called a song, let's say? Or what is one reason that it's called a song? And maybe, is there a definition or a way of, like, how does the Bhagavad Gita understand itself? Does that make sense in terms of a question?
Sure. Very good. The Gita is a song because Sanskrit is sung. It's a beautiful language. Here, for example, is the first verse of the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in one of the traditional melodies. Dharmakshetre kurukshetre samavita yutsava mamakak pandavaschiva kim kurvata sanjaya. Simple melody. And that one melody is pretty much good for all the 700 verses of the Gita. There are one or two exceptions, but it works. And there are other core melodies. Dharmakshetre, kurukshetre, samavetaya, yutsava. There's only like 3 notes in that melody. So it's a song in that sense, that the language is sung. What was the other part of your question?
Yeah, I was wondering, because we're going to be talking a lot about, okay, how does this make sense in a modern context, right? But sometimes I'm curious, like, how does the Bhagavad Gita, how is it self-referential in a way? Like, how does it think about itself, or how does it describe its own purpose, let's say?
Good. Well, the Gita is 18 chapters, known as the Bhishma Parva section of a much longer work called the Mahabharata, like 90,000 verses or something like that. And to understand the Gita, it's actually important to know the story of the Mahabharata. Otherwise, it's going to be confusing why this is happening just now. So at some point, it'd probably be a good idea for us to briefly summarize the story of the Mahabharata so that we can contextualize the Gita within that larger epic story. The Mahabharata being one of 2 epics of India, the other being the Ramayana. Sometimes they're referred to as the Iliad and the Odyssey of the East. Well, I'm not sure if that's a perfect analogy, but it's accurate enough. So the Gita is self-referential, or sees itself, first of all, as a part of this larger narrative story. It's also this very, very, very condensed essence of a huge Sanskrit library of texts, Shastra texts, scriptures. There's 2 words in Sanskrit, Shastra and Shastra. Shastra with a long A, where there's a line over the A, Shastra, refers to wisdom teachings. It's often said that a culture that is not managed and guided by Shastra will be managed by Shastra. With a short A, the word means weapons. So if you're not guided by wisdom, you'll be guided by violence. So this large library, hundreds of volumes of wisdom, condensed down into these 700 verses. So each verse of the Gita, you could have a whole semester on a single verse when you were talking about the course we did up at Jivamukti,
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason why we only got halfway through the book in 12 years. There was so much to talk about. One word in Sanskrit from the Bhagavad Gita can be explained in a dozen different ways. Look at the word Atma, for example. Atma, depending on the context, can be translated as the non-material self, sometimes called the soul, which is inaccurate. The non-material self, the mind, the senses, humanity, culture, human characteristics. You can have all of these different, the supreme being, any of these things. So to contextualize each word is the challenge of unpacking these verses from the Bhagavad Gita. Each one's like a mantra or a sutra, a code. Chanted has that same power as other mantras, and you can unpack it for days and weeks.
All right. Well, let's get an unpacking, and so everybody get your suitcase and join us in the next video.